Sauron, the Dark Lord of Mordor, ruled with an iron grip over Middle-earth, wielding fear, manipulation and dark power to maintain control. But there was one figure who stood as a beacon of hope, a threat to his dominion. Aragorn, the rightful heir to the throne of Gondor. The question is, why would Sauron, with all his vast armies and terrifying power, fear a single man? Aragorn wasn't just a king reclaiming a throne, he was the embodiment of an ancient prophecy, a challenge to Sauron's reign, and the symbol of a unified resistance. Though Sauron may not have feared Aragorn in the traditional sense, he certainly acknowledged Aragorn as a significant threat. Let's look into why exactly this may be. How did Aragorn's lineage strike concern in Sauron? Sauron's concern with Aragorn began with the history tied to his bloodline. Aragorn was a descendant of Isildur, the man who had taken the One Ring from Sauron during the Battle of the Last Alliance in the Second Age. While Isildur did not single-handedly defeat Sauron, the combined efforts of the last alliance of elves and men led to Sauron's downfall. Isildur's act of claiming the ring was a pivotal moment that ended Sauron's reign for a time, although it also set the stage for his eventual return. This lineage held immense symbolic weight, as Isildur was the son of Elendil, the High King of both Arnor and Gondor. Although Aragorn was not a direct descendant of Gondor's later kings, who came from Isildur's brother Anarion, his claim to the throne remained legitimate. After the disappearance of Gondor's last king, Erna rule passed to the stewards, who governed until the return of a rightful king. Aragorn's claim was further strengthened by an ancient prophecy that foretold the return of a king to Gondor in its time of greatest need. His possession of Andúril, the reforged sword of Elendil, served as a powerful symbol of his right to rule. Though Gondor had long been led by stewards, Aragorn's lineage through Isildur, the elder son of Elendil, gave him the legitimacy to reclaim the throne. However, during the War of the Ring, Aragorn did not openly assert his claim to Gondor until after his victories in battle, showing a cautious approach to stepping into his role as king. He was mindful of the need to win support and prove his worth as a leader before taking the throne. For Sauron, Aragorn represented a serious threat. While Sauron did not experience fear in the way humans do, he understood the danger that Aragorn posed. Aragorn had the potential to unite the free peoples of Middle-earth, something that had eluded others for centuries. This directly opposed Sauron's strategy of keeping the realms of men, elves, and dwarves divided through fear, manipulation, and deception. A leader who could bridge those divides and bring them together under one banner presented a serious challenge to Sauron's domination. The rise of a leader from the line of Isildur, whose family had once brought about Sauron's downfall, was a major concern for the Dark Lord. Aragorn's lineage symbolized the return of the same force that had humbled Sauron in the past, and Sauron was well aware of the risk that history might repeat itself. With Aragorn growing in power and influence, Sauron saw the threat of a united Middle-earth becoming a reality, something that would undermine his quest for total domination. Why was Gondor so vital to Sauron's plans? Gondor, the southern kingdom founded by Elendil and his sons, had long stood as a bastion against Sauron's growing power. Strategically positioned near Mordor, Gondor acted as the primary line of defense, preventing Sauron's forces from sweeping across Middle-earth unchallenged. The capital, Minas Tirith, was more than just a city. It was a fortress that had repelled countless assaults from Mordor. If Gondor were to fall, Sauron's armies would have free rein to conquer Rohan and other free peoples, removing any significant opposition to his dominance. Beyond Gondor's military strength, the kingdom was also a powerful symbol of defiance. As the last remnant of the ancient Númenórean kingdoms, Gondor embodied the resilience of men and their ability to stand against the shadow. Gondor's survival after centuries of warfare was a testament to the strength of the free peoples. For Sauron, it was essential to destroy this symbol of hope. Without Gondor, the morale of the free peoples would crumble, and Sauron's victory would seem inevitable. Sauron's strategy was to exploit Gondor's weakened state. After years of constant warfare, Gondor had been worn down, its armies stretched thin. Under the steward Denethor, Gondor's leadership faltered. Denethor, having succumbed to despair and paranoia after using the Palantír, had been manipulated by Sauron into believing Gondor's defeat was unavoidable. This left the city vulnerable at its most crucial hour, with its leader unwilling to rally his people. Sauron believed that a swift and brutal assault on Minas Tirith would ensure Gondor's collapse, opening the way for him to dominate Middle-earth. However, Sauron underestimated the resurgence of Gondor's strength. The arrival of Aragorn threatened to undo Sauron's plan. Unlike Denethor, who had fallen into despair, Aragorn represented the leadership and unity that Gondor had been missing. His presence invigorated the defense of Minas Tirith, rallying not only Gondor's people but also their allies. Gondor's military resurgence under Aragorn's leadership challenged Sauron's assumption that the kingdom could be easily crushed. For Sauron, Gondor's strength was not only a military obstacle but a symbolic one. As long as Minas Tirith stood, the Free Peoples would continue to resist him. How did Sauron misread Aragorn's strategy? Sauron's concern over Aragorn intensified when Aragorn took control of the Palantír of Orthanc, one of the ancient seeing stones that could communicate across great distances. By using the Palantír, Aragorn intentionally revealed himself to Sauron, showing the Dark Lord that the heir of Isildur had returned. This was a bold move, and it had the intended effect. It caught Sauron's attention. Sauron, ever suspicious, was left to wonder whether Aragorn or another of his enemies now possessed the One Ring. Sauron's obsession with the ring clouded his judgment. Though he did not know for certain who held the ring, he feared that a powerful enemy might use it against him. His focus turned towards Gondor and Aragorn, believing that Isildur's heir could now be a greater threat than before. Sauron, driven by his fear of losing control of the ring, hastened his plans and sent his armies against Gondor, aiming to crush his enemies before they could consolidate power with the ring. But Sauron had miscalculated. Aragorn's true aim was not to challenge Sauron with the ring's power, but to draw his attention away from Frodo's secret mission to destroy the ring. By revealing himself, Aragorn manipulated Sauron's fears, knowing that the Dark Lord would be fixated on the possibility of the ring being used against him. This bought the Free Peoples valuable time, as Sauron's forces moved prematurely, while Frodo and Sam continued their perilous journey to Mount Doom. This misjudgment by Sauron was critical to his eventual defeat. Aragorn's decision to reveal himself and play on Sauron's fear of the ring proved to be a masterstroke. While Sauron's gaze was turned towards Gondor, the true threat, Frodo's quest to destroy the ring, moved forward unnoticed. Aragorn's ability to understand and exploit Sauron's fears demonstrated not just his strength as a leader, but his skill as a tactician, helping secure the Free People's victory. What role did Andúril play in Sauron's fear? A crucial part of Aragorn's return to the stage of Middle-earth was the reforging of Andúril, the sword that had once been known as Narsil. This blade had been used by Isildur to cut the One Ring from Sauron's hand, bringing an end to his physical form for a time. The reforging of Narsil into Andúril was a powerful symbol, not just of Aragorn's claim to the throne of Gondor, but of the resurgence of the Númenórean line that had once defeated Sauron. For Sauron, the reappearance of the sword signaled the return of the royal line he had once feared. More than just a weapon, Andúril carried deep symbolic weight. In Middle-earth, weapons often held significance beyond their physical power, and Andúril was no exception. Its reforging heralded the restoration of the kingship and the resurgence of the Free People's strength. Sauron's defeat at the hands of Isildur had long haunted him, and the sight of this ancient sword in Aragorn's hands reminded him that the line of Elendil had returned to challenge him once again. It was a reminder that his past defeat could repeat itself. Andúril became a symbol that rallied others to Aragorn's cause. As the sword that had once helped defeat Sauron, it represented hope for the Free Peoples of Middle-earth. In the eyes of Gondor and Rohan, Andúril was more than a weapon. It was a banner of unity and strength. Aragorn wielding Andúril on the battlefield was a clear sign that the line of the kings had returned and that a true leader was prepared to challenge Sauron's dominion. For Sauron, the reappearance of Andúril was not only a reminder of the past, but a symbol of the threat posed by Aragorn's rise. While the sword itself was not the source of his fear, it was a powerful symbol of the resurgence of the West and the possibility of a united force against him. In this way, Andúril contributed to the psychological and strategic challenge that Aragorn posed to Sauron's plans. Why was Aragorn's leadership so dangerous to Sauron? Aragorn's ability to lead and inspire was one of the greatest threats to Sauron's reign. While Sauron ruled through fear, domination, and coercion, Aragorn commanded respect, loyalty, and trust. His leadership was not built on subjugation, but on mutual bonds with those who followed him. This was a stark contrast to Sauron's servants, who were enslaved by terror rather than true allegiance. Aragorn's charisma and moral authority made him a figure whom others willingly followed into battle, a quality that Sauron could never replicate. Aragorn's leadership was instrumental in uniting the free peoples of Middle-earth. He forged strong alliances with Rohan, led Gondor to renewed strength, and guided the Rangers of the North, descendants of the ancient kingdom of Arnor. Sauron's strategy had long been to divide his enemies, keeping them weak through fear and disunity. However, Aragorn, through his leadership and nobility, shattered those divisions. He was a leader capable of uniting men, with key support from allies like Legolas and Gimli. More than just a military leader, Aragorn was a symbol of hope. In a world overshadowed by the terror of Sauron, Aragorn's mere presence on the battlefield represented the defiance of the free peoples. He embodied the hope that victory was still possible, even in the face of overwhelming darkness. Wherever Aragorn went, he inspired courage, lifting the spirits of those who fought alongside him. This hope was something that Sauron could not easily combat. His power was rooted in fear and despair, and against the hope that Aragorn symbolized, he had no real defense. Aragorn's leadership wasn't just about battlefield strategy. It was about giving the free people something to believe in. Hope, not force alone, was Sauron's greatest enemy. And in Aragorn, that hope burned brighter than ever. What would Aragorn's victory mean for Sauron? Sauron's fear of Aragorn stemmed from what his victory would symbolize. If Aragorn were to reclaim the throne of Gondor, it would mark the end of Sauron's long-standing attempts to dominate Middle-earth. Aragorn's rise would signal a return to the strength of Gondor, a kingdom that had once stood against Sauron's power. More importantly, Aragorn represented a leadership that could unite the free peoples, particularly men of Gondor and Rohan, into a single force of resistance. Aragorn's victory would also restore the ancient line of Númenórean kings, challenging Sauron's rule of fear with values of freedom, unity, and justice. This restoration stood in stark contrast to Sauron's tyranny, where he sought to divide and rule through manipulation and terror. The return of a true king to Gondor would not only strengthen the free peoples, but also signal a new age, one where Sauron's shadow could finally be lifted from the land. However, the ultimate threat to Sauron was not Aragorn alone. While Sauron feared the unification of the free peoples under Aragorn's leadership, his greatest fear lay with the One Ring. Aragorn's role was to distract Sauron, keeping his eye away from the true danger, the Ring-bearer's quest to destroy the ring. It was Frodo's mission to Mount Doom that posed the most direct threat to Sauron's existence. In the end, Aragorn's victory would help secure a future where darkness no longer ruled, but it was the destruction of the One Ring that truly defeated Sauron. Aragorn stood as a symbol of hope and renewal, but the defeat of the Dark Lord was ultimately tied to the fall of Barad-dûr and the loss of the ring's power. This future, free from Sauron's tyranny, was the one he feared the most. Sauron's greatest fear was not just about losing battles, but about losing control over Middle-earth. Aragorn's claim to the throne of Gondor represented more than just a change in leadership. It was the return of a king from the bloodline that had once defeated Sauron. Aragorn's leadership could unite the free peoples, something Sauron had always feared and worked to prevent. But most of all, Aragorn embodied hope, the one force that could undermine Sauron's rule of fear and domination. With Aragorn's victory, Sauron's long-sought reign of terror would crumble, and his ambitions for total domination would be shattered. This is why Sauron feared Aragorn and his rightful claim to the throne. Click the video on screen now to learn the story of the Rings of Power. But before Aragorn's rise, Sauron had already sown seeds of corruption through the Rings of Power, tools that he used to manipulate and control Middle-earth's greatest leaders. Click the video on screen now to learn the story of the Rings of Power and how they corrupted Middle-earth.